Good to go. Great. Thanks, Kaylee. Good evening and welcome to the main meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission. My name is Greg Young. I'm the current chair of the commission. And this open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Healy's executive order of March 29th, 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda, unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Clark.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Diane Gouldner.
Here.
Todd Helwig.
Here.
Very good. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vinnie Vignali.
Here.
And Kaylee Olson.
Here.
Thank you, Kaylee. Some ground rules for presenters and applicants listed on the agenda. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by a roll call vote. For items of public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click Raise Hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing via the Northborough Remote Meetings tab on the town's website. You ready, Diane?
I am ready.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 29th, 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. To participate in the public comment portion of this public hearing, go to the Northborough Remote Meetings YouTube channel or the town website for Zoom information included on the posted meeting agenda. The meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and or the Northborough Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance Bylaw. The first hearing, Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance Permit Application, 61 and 65 West Main and 10 Monroe Streets, map and parcel 63, 1, 7, and 9, owned by the town of Northborough to construct a new fire station with associated utilities. The work will alter more than one area. 2, Notice of intent for 99 Crawford Street, map and parcel 215/77, owned by Michael Zecco to demolish, existing dwelling and construct a new single-family house with associated utilities and septic system within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. The next one, 175 Rice Avenue, map and parcel 35/12, owned by Matthew Stone to construct a house addition, deck construction, and pool area stabilization. The work will be within the riverfront area and a 100-foot wetland buffer zone. The next one, notice of intent on 660A Howard Street, map and parcel 8/16, owned by, I think it's Guerdon Bennett, to construct a new single-family house with associated well and septic system within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. The next one is stormwater management and land disturbance permit application, 317 Crawford Street, map and parcel 41/42/1, owned by Vadim Lazko and submitted by Sarah Smelius to construct a new single-family house with a well and septic system. The work will alter more than 1 acre, excuse me. Lastly, notice of intent and stormwater management and land disturbance permit, 187 Lyman Street, parcels 82/2, owned by the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. The proposal will develop the existing vehicle management fleet maintenance site to provide paved parking and office fencing and stormwater management. The work will alter an isolated vegetated wetland, 25 feet no disturb buffer, and alter more than 1 acre. And that's all of them.
Very good. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
All right, meeting minutes from April. I did see, Vinnie, that Tom Beals, who's not with us yet, Tom did have some comments that you added to you updated or edited the minutes, I should say, accordingly.
That's correct. He, on, what was the site? On the 432 Whitney Street vote.
Yep.
We were having a tough connection with him, and we thought that he voted yes, but in actuality he voted no.
Okay.
But it was, instead of a unanimous vote, it was a 4 to 1 vote. So it still carried, but it just wasn't unanimous. And then he had a typo correction for the 317 Crawford Street portion. There was a line in there that said that I replied and I deferred to the PEs, the professional engineers. So I just needed to change that. It just looked like a spelling error, PES.
And you've made that adjustment on the meeting minutes, so those are now formally in the record. Okay, great. Any questions, comments, concerns on the meeting minutes from Commission?
I have a question, Greg, though.
Go
How many of these can I vote on, or do I have to abstain from most everything?
You were not here last month, right?
Right.
So I think you would need to abstain from this vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else have a question, comment, concern? Okay, we need a motion to accept the April 8 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dan. Roll call vote. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Just Dufresne.
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay. Now, Diane, on that same topic, I understand you viewed all of the meeting minutes, the meetings you missed on YouTube, so you can now participate on the agenda tonight.
Okay,
Right.
I'll mark it down. Didn't
You
know
did
that.
that. You did that, Vinnie? Didn't she say that? She listened?
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought you said you viewed the minutes or the videos of the last meeting. So no.
Sorry, no.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay. We'll just be cognizant of that because if we vote anything open, that's continued from last meeting.
Yes.
Let's make a note of that now. What did we open last meeting, Vinnie?
Just the continued ones. The second item for 0 Hudson Street.
Yep.
And actually that's it. Or is there one?
That's all. No, just that was it. The continuations, right?
That's it. Yeah.
289 Lyman.
Yes. Why is that not a continued? Oh, it is. I'm sorry. It's going between pages on mine. Yes. So 289 Lyman and then this one. The 0 Hudson.
That was continued from a couple of months ago, though, right?
The 0 Hudson. Yes. That's been going since January.
Okay.
So I could vote on that?
We're probably not going to vote, but once you
Oops.
review the video from the meeting you
Okay.
missed, you'd be able to.
Okay.
Okay. So we're all set. Diane, you got your homework?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, 6165 West Main Street. Stormwater management, town of Northborough. We'll start with this one, fire station construction. Who do we have there? Let's see.
I think the Chief Parente.
Dave Chief Parente. I'll bring him into the meeting. Anybody else?
I'm sure there are 2 or 3, but he'll
I'm
let us know
looking.
when he gets here.
Yep.
Wow.
The answer is yes, there should be several.
Okay,
Should be Amy,
Amy.
Janet,
Seeing Amy Dunlap.
yep,
There's Amy Dunlap. Yep. Okay, I'll bring her in.
I don't see
Analyst.
I don't see a Janet.
maybe Janet's not comfortable to ask, right? Is there a Tim, Alex, or a Todd?
No,
Let's see what Amy can-
there's Amy.
Hi,
Welcome,
Amy, who's supposed to be here tonight?
So Janet Slamenda from HKT should be,
Yeah.
Nicole Capistron and Jim Jackson from PAR.
Jim Jackson, I have a hand up. Bring it to panelist, and Janet Slamenda.
Yep.
Yep.
Also coming to panelist.
And you should have Nicole.
I didn't see IJK.
Jim can tell us if she,
I don't see
It's up to-
Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole won't be on tonight.
okay.
We're representing.
Okay, so everybody's here who's supposed to be here.
I
Good.
think so. Yep.
Okay. All right, so this is we're opening the hearing for the stormwater management land disturbance permit application for the proposed new Northborough Fire Station. Vinny, I think you want to tell us where we are with us. Are you waiting for some data in this one too, I think?
Yeah, well, I sent comments out last week or maybe the end of the week before, and I'm waiting for responses on that, but I think we can get a presentation out tonight.
Sure.
Get comments from the public if there are any additional things from the commission as well. And then we can see if there are any issues with the comments that I had, that they're probably working through them and getting everything addressed.
Sounds good to me. Does that work for you, Chief? Excellent. Okay, who's going to do who's going to drive?
Jim, you,
Yeah, I can get things started with sharing some plans.
And Jim and Amy, could you tell us who you are, who you're with?
yes, my name's Amy Dunlap. I'm with HKT Architects.
And I'm Janet Slamenda, principal at HKT Architects.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Jim Jackson. I'm a civil engineer with PAR Corporation. We're the engineers for the project.
Okay, super.
Is my screen sharing? It should be showing a plan.
It's showing a plan. It's pretty small.
Zoom in. Yeah, this is kind of the overall plan. So
Okay.
I want to start with that, and then I can zoom into some larger scale plans. But right into it. So this is an overall site plan. The proposed site is on West Main Street, new fire station site. To the west of the site is the Hillside Grill property. To the east is the bank property. Across the street over here, there's a Dunkin' Donuts. And then there's some residential properties, Liberty Drive up in this general area here. Jump into a larger scale plan. This is our demolition plan and erosion and sediment control plan. So on here, we're showing the construction entrance, compost filter sock along the roadway to collect any sediments. We're going to provide inlet protection at the existing catch basins. And then we also go through some of the site demolition. The two buildings that were there have been demolished. There was a gas station there and a residence that were demolished a few years ago. This is the proposed fire station site. So on the, this is the building portion. The east side is the apparatus bays where all the equipment will be stored. And then on the west side will be administrative and living quarters. We kind of split the parking so that the fire station employees will be parking on the east side with some overflow parking on the west side. And then on the west side, we will have parking for visitors to the fire station. And also there's about 30 parking spaces for public use for the downtown area. So we have a large apron in front of for the equipment. Most of the equipment will be responding out of the front here. There's also access into the back of the building so that trucks can exit from the back. There's a retaining wall on the south side of the property. There's kind of significant grade change. So the retaining wall at the highest point over in this corner will be about 30 feet tall, and that tapers down going each direction. Water plan. So stormwater on the site, we did do some that's grading. We did do some test pits on the site. It wasn't really conductive to infiltration. We did find a few areas where we could do some infiltration, but a lot of the groundwater was high in areas. But we are providing infiltration where we can. We've got a system here. We've got some other systems in this area to provide some infiltration, and then another one here. And then we're also, to provide detention, we are doing underground detention chambers. One here, one back here, large one over under the parking here, and one up the hill over in this area. Then we have a couple of detention chambers on the side here. So that will provide, the peak flows or reduce peak flows. We're also showing treatment on the site. We have aqua swirl units to treat the stormwater, and that will treat phosphorus and TSS. We're able to get over 90% TSS removal and over 80% phosphorus removal on the site. Pretty much covers the plans. We did, as Vinny mentioned, he did send us some comments, and we have been working through those, and we will provide written responses to all the comments, as well as revised plans and revised O&M plan for the site. We did have a couple of questions on some of the comments or clarifications on some that we thought we'd bring up tonight. If that's a good time, is that acceptable to bring those up now, or?
Fine with me. Then we'll go with questions from the commission and then public comment. We'll do it in that order.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, so the question, comment 1A.
If you just want to
Section 1A was
summarize it, yeah.
Yeah, it was regarding the SWIP. And so we have the contractor prepare the SWIP. So that's something that we would have available to the Conservation Commission before construction starts, but it would be prepared. It's more contractor specific. So we would ask the contractor to prepare that. So that was in response to comment 1A. Comment 3A, then he brought up possibly talking with the property owners here to reduce the height of the wall. And we are actually doing that. We had started that a few weeks ago. And Chief Parenti has been out there to talk with the Hillside Grill property owners, and Scott Charpentier with the DPW has talked with them. And they seem in agreeable to allowing us to do some grading on their property so that we can reduce the height of that wall. That's one thing we're addressing. Comment 4A was regarding doing some permeability testing. What we did is we did test pits and we're using the information from the test pits, design the infiltration based on the on-site soil texture and Rawls rates in accordance with the Mass Stormwater Handbook. So we felt that was adequate to cover the Mass Handbook, and then also the Town of Northborough stormwater management regulations that seemed to be in compliance with that. So we were going to try to respond that we feel the test pits are adequate.
Yeah, that one, the town engineer is the one who likes having those permeability tests in addition to it to verify. So I just have that as a standard condition to support his requirements as well. So if he's okay with it, then I'm fine.
Okay, we'll talk with him about it. Yeah, because we generally do an inspection when the whole infiltration system is excavated. And it is a whole inspection with soil conditions. And then on comment 13A, it was responding to the volumes of runoff was increasing some. Yeah, we tried to do as much infiltration as we could on the site. We are meeting the peak flow requirements. We've reduced the peak flows, but the peak volumes do increase some because we are adding a significant amount of impervious to the site, and we didn't really have enough infiltration to reduce.
Yeah, that one you can just request a waiver. I mean, I think it's up to the commission, but you're getting more than 90% of the volume. So I think you're making a good faith effort. It might be when you provide your justification for the waiver request, just show the commission why they should grant the waiver. And they're usually pretty good, unless the commissioners have questions or issues now.
Okay, thank you. And then our other was on question kind of 14A, and it was kind of throughout, there was some of the comments, but the O&M manual, we're specifying proprietary treatment, infiltration, and detention systems. And, being a public project, we don't require the contractor to use those systems. We allow them to submit, approved equals, and so the systems may change some. So for the O&M manual, that may change some during construction. We'll put in all the information for O&M for the systems we're proposing, but there is a potential that those could change slightly. Contracted.
Yep, and that's typical. Usually what we do as one of the standard conditions in this type of a project permit is that the final operation and maintenance plan, you'll submit a draft before we issue a final approval for a certificate of occupancy, and we'll verify that what you're proposing at the site or what is included in the O&M for the site is what was actually put in. So it addresses it through that way. But initially what I like to see is that the stuff you're submitting actually works. I know that you were going with those aqua swirls, and I'm not sure that the town will do the maintenance required or replace the filters that are needed. So there's got to be some kind of a commitment somewhere to assure the commission that things will be operated appropriately.
Yeah, and they may need an outside vendor for that.
Right, and if that's what they say, that's what they do. That's okay. We just want to be clear.
All right, thank you. And that was all we really had for questions on the comments.
Okay. So, good. I got a couple questions here, Jim. Soil pollution. It's there was previously a gas station there on that site. Gas stations historically, they're pretty nasty footprints behind. I know there was some work done years ago there. Is there any concern or around potentially soil pollution, contamination?
Yeah, so the town does have a LSP that's been working on the site. So he will prepare, as part of the contract documents, there'll be a soil management plan. So if any contaminated soil is encountered during construction, the soil management plan will explain what has to be done with it. It'd be segregated, tested, and then covered on site. That would be up to the LSP. There would be an LSP working on that, and that's not part of the PAR services we're providing on this project, but there is a.
Yeah, to follow up on that, that's one of the questions kind of that I had. It wasn't specifically that, but what you submitted didn't show the soil, or I didn't see where the soil borings were. So I would really like to see some tests that show there's no hazardous material where you're infiltrating, where your flow
Okay.
is going to be infiltrating into the ground. There's got to be some verification up front that that's not contaminated soil.
Okay.
And we did try to stay away from it. Yeah, it was generally, this area was the gas station. Did kind of stay away from that with the infiltration.
So we'll
And
see.
this
There will be some sort of plan on that then, Vinny, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, they're going to give us additional information, I assume. And you just have a slab on grade, right? So that if there is even a little bit of something there, it's going to get covered over with concrete. Is that the plan? You don't have a basement?
Yeah, it would be anything inside would be covered with concrete, and then the LSP would make any recommendations if there was.
Okay. Second question I have is around water off the road. When the Hillside Grill complex was being built, we had a problem there where there was water running down the road across the parking lot of McDonald's into the wetlands. We need to be fairly confident that that's not going to happen with this site.
Yeah, so we're detaining the stormwater on the site and then slowly releasing it to the Mass DOT system in the street.
Mhm.
And we will negotiate with them to get approval for that too.
You got there's a couple of grates, right, in front there.
Yeah, there's I think one right here.
Yep.
Covered.
Yeah,
one
there's
here.
3 of them.
Yeah, I think there's another one in
Yeah.
this general area.
Right. And I think Greg's point kind of ties into the comment that I made in regard to temporary sediment containment at the site. You're going to have temporary basins or pits because you're not going to have those underground infiltration or underground detention facilities available right off the bat. So you're going to need some surface basins to hold the water and keep the water from flowing out onto Route 20 if we get hit with a big storm.
Yeah, we the contractor provide those based on kind of his layout of we require it by our specs, but we don't put the exact location because we allow them to kind of work the site as they need to.
Yep. Yep. Generally, I agree with that, but we would need to see something with some sizing to comply with the EPA SWIP requirements, the 3,600 cubic feet per acre of alteration area. So you're going to have that volume somewhere and show that. I mean, you can't put it in a 5x5 square drawing on the plan. You got to show that there's enough space for the contractor to do his work or phase the project as needed to make that happen.
Yeah, we can add something to our erosion and sediment.
Okay. The last one I have, Jim, is around potential pollutants generated by the fire process. I mean, I know that some of the foam the fire department uses pretty nasty stuff. The Capes got some issues there. What is going to be done to prevent that from getting into the wetlands? It's probably a chief's question. You're muted, Chief. There you go.
I know I wasn't speaking. I just raised my hand first before I said, I'll let you know. Within the last several years, we've converted over from a AFFF phone to a green phone by DEP. So we got rid of all of our bad foam. It's all gone. So that's not an issue. There is really nothing else that comes back to the site in any way. We don't bring any contaminants back. Anything that we work with on this, other than our turnout gear that gets washed and goes through the system of water. But there is no the foam is always a big one. I always hear from, and I understand that was a big problem for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Those are my questions. Any other commissioners have questions, comments?
Was anything brought up before about the traffic entering from the fire station to Main Street and how that's handled?
Yeah, there will be a signal as part of the project, emergency traffic signal.
And there'll be a preemption system, and the way it'll work is as we pull out of the station, we have rollers on the truck. They'll turn the lights red and into the center of where the station is, and green to dump everybody out. And it'll dump also at Church and Main. Those areas will dump out and we won't have any traffic in front of us.
Okay.
Any other question from the commission? Tom Beals, welcome. Thank you for joining.
I have a couple quick ones, Greg.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, one of my questions is actually kind of regarding the street along the frontage, and just know, in the mornings how congested that gets to the Dunkin' Donuts and everything right there, and kind of didn't know with this project if there's any plans for, turn lanes, widening of Route 20 right there, or kind of any changes along the frontage of the roadway. I'll obviously understand you have to work with the state on some of those changes, but just kind of wondering if there's anything planned right now.
Yeah, there's no plans to do any road improvements. I mean, just the signal, the traffic signal.
Okay. Then another one, just wondering overall on parking and kind of parking numbers out here, Jim, and just kind of wondering what the basis for just the amount of impervious, the number of parking spaces is. I just know, the existing station now seems to have, a good amount less parking than that. And I don't know how full it gets on kind of a daily basis and what the need is for so much additional parking.
Yeah, so we calculated the parking required for the fire department and came up with 23 spaces for the staff. And then we were asked to add some public parking too for use for the downtown area to improve the parking situation in the downtown area. So there's 30 additional spaces for just public parking, not necessarily related to the fire.
I can speak a little bit to that as well, if I may. So one of the things when we designed this station is we designed for 40 years out, right? Right now our staffing is 5, trying to move up to 7 per shift. And at shift change, that's 14 cars. So that's why there's additional parking for staff. Plus, and I don't know what the future is going to bring. The other side, the public, this is also going to function as our town EOC, Emergency Operations Center. We have to open Emergency Operations Center. We need to have enough parking to bring in police, DPW, school, anyone that we need to come in and staff our Emergency Operations Center. So that's what that had to be considered.
Okay, thank you. Kind of, I guess 2 more questions and a little bit more related to stormwater. Just kind of in my career, kind of having worked with the state recently, I know it's hard to connect into state drainage systems, even if you are reducing peak rates, and just kind of wondering what the drainage system does here when it goes off site. I thought I maybe saw potentially an easement that cuts across Route 20 and maybe goes to the wetland on the other side, which I think would benefit the project if it was kind of out of the state's hands a little bit more. We're just kind of wondering about that, Jim.
Yeah, so this catch basin on the west side does kind of, I think it's the only one that's tied into it. It goes directly across and then back on into the wetland areas back here. The others shows up on our plan. They're a little more of a collection. They all end up back in those wetlands eventually. That it shows it right on our plan how those are tied in. It might be further down the road here. They go back towards the wetlands.
So are you connecting in with any overflow from those basins into that system?
Yeah, we do have yeah, we have an overflow from this detention. We have a tie-in right here.
Okay.
This one's not directly, we have one more. Yeah, then we have a tie-in here.
Okay. So assume you haven't started like your DOT access permit process or anything like that yet, right?
Not yet. We're trying to get a pre-application meeting scheduled with them now.
Okay. And just kind of last comment was really just in regards to the infiltration system, especially the one kind of near where your hand is now. Just seems really close to the property line right there. And just kind of wondering from a constructability standpoint, if it's possible, or if maybe you're planning to get a temporary easement or something on the other property to try to get that thing in there. But just seemed pretty tight to me.
Yeah, it is tight. They aren't very deep. I think it's maybe 5 feet or so deep. They're not a real deep system because the groundwater was fairly high. So I think we'll have enough room to get it in there, but it is kind of tight.
Okay. No, overall, yeah, I mean, quite a bit of stormwater being captured, being either infiltrated or detained. I'm sure there's a lot to do with the increase in peaks there, but looks like you're kind of spread it across the site, which is nice because it's nice to not concentrate it all in one area, but definitely quite a bit of stormwater make this one work.
Yeah, it was kind of difficult with the high groundwater.
Thanks.
You're good, Justin?
Yep.
Good, thank you. Anybody else in the commission have a question, comment? I don't see shaking hands.
Yes, I have one question.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm curious if there's anything that's being installed for sub-slab ventilation in regards to this being a prior gas station. I know that in other projects, sub-slab vapors have a tendency that build up over time. And we've had projects that I've worked on before where you have to go back to do sub-slab ventilation because of residual contamination. I know we're supposed to be technically cleaned up, but that might be something that wants to be considered in. It's a lot easier to put some slab piping in before the building's built than have to do it afterwards and cut up all the floors.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a good point. We are going to have our the town's LSP review the plans and see if they make recommendations for the sub slab.
Yeah, I would put that on the radar screen. Just I've seen it multiple times, and it would be in everybody's best interest to plastic PVC piping is cheap to put in on the sub slab or below the slab, and if you never need it, you never need it. But it might be something that needs to be discussed further.
Okay, good point. Anything else, Tom?
No, that's the only, the rest of it, it just, you always run into issues with old gas station places.
Mhm.
This will be something that'll show up there.
Okay, anybody else, any other questions from the commission, comments, before we go with the public? No? Okay, let's see if we have any hands up in the audience here. I don't see any hands up. Just making sure. Last call. Nope. Okay, we're good. All right. So Vinny, it sounds like you're looking for some information back, which is being worked on. So looks like we should continue this to the June meeting.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that would make sense. What's the time frame for the proposal? I know you don't want to be held up, but will a month create too much problem?
No, I think that we were anticipating we'd be back in a month.
I was just going to ask Amy or Janet to speak up to the timetable because I know they've been working on the schedule.
Yeah, we didn't have this one scheduled. Oh, sorry, Janet speaking. We didn't have this one scheduled, but not not that wasn't anticipated there would be a follow-up. So I think June 10th, and it's up to par to the submission would be due, Vinny, a week in advance. What's the time frame when it's a continuing?
Usually, well, typically the application deadline is 2 weeks in advance,
Okay,
so there's time to review it.
okay,
And there were extensive, a lot of little details, I don't know that there's anything real significant. There's not recalculation of the flows and that kind of stuff, but
okay, okay.
there's a bit of work involved, and it's the busy season. If it were December, it would be 7 days, but because everybody wants to get stuff done now, it's going to be busy.
Okay, I'll coordinate with Jim Jackson and Nicole Capistran, who's not here tonight. She's a civil engineer on the project with Jim. And
Yeah, we're
make
working
sure-
on it.
Yeah,
We shouldn't have any problem getting them to you.
yeah, I
within-
didn't think so. So, okay.
Yep.
Should
And if
be
you
early
get
next week.
if you get halfway down the road and you have questions, just give a call or send an email.
That'd be great.
One more quick one, just on my end, Greg, just
Go
before we
ahead.
wrap up. Just kind of wondering the driveway entrance to the kind of the page left of the plans. Jim, I'm wondering first, it's a little bit out of Concom purview, but assume that there's been like a site distance look at that entrance right there in particular. That's pretty tight around that corner. And just one more cool, like in regards to that also, like, is there any ability to tee that thing up with the entrance across the street, just so you don't have offset kind of driveway entrances on Route 20?
Yeah, we did. So the first question, so we did look at the site distances. There is a bit of a curve there, but our traffic engineer looked at it and he felt it was adequate.
Okay.
As far as teeing up, I don't think we could make that work. Pushing everything to the right there. I think it
Yeah.
squeeze things
Kind
a
of
little.
pinches you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Greg, I didn't know, just before we move on, if there's any public comment, I guess is kind of the last piece, but
Yeah, no, I checked and it was,
okay.
no hands up. Okay, then, I think we need a motion to continue this until the June 10th meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded by Tom Beals. Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Very good, folks. Thank you. We'll see you in June.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye
Have a
now.
good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay. We need Jim to take his screen down. Here we go.
There you go.
Didn't take long, Jim. Not his first rodeo. Okay. Zero Hudson Street, continuation. Let me see who we have. I got a hand up here. Paul McManus. Gonna bring you in, Paul. There he is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Vito Colonna, engineer from Cornerstone.
Yep, let me see. Vito was here. He is no longer here. Double checking. I'm sorry, here he is. I got him. He moved. Vito, bringing you in as a panelist.
And perhaps Scott Goddard, who's the applicant.
Do not see Scott Goddard.
Okay, well, Vito's more important.
Okay, okay. Welcome, Vito.
Hello.
Okay, so Zero Hudson Street continuation. Where are we?
So we had submitted some information and requested a continuance. I had some personal issues to deal with and wanted to get back. We have responded to a comment letter from Vinny. We got responses back a little while back. He subsequently submitted a follow-up, which we have been working on, are almost through, but I thought it best to make sure we had a kind of a cohesive response rather than sending that in piecemeal. So we do owe that to Vinny. So we have every expectation that we'll be requesting a continuance tonight, but we wanted to go and bring the commission through, explain the project. You know, there's a number of resource areas where we're working, and if I may, I think it'd be good to just kind of walk you through it.
Sure.
All right, okay for me to share my screen?
It is. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, no. Why did
So
it-
are you seeing my USGS here?
Yes. Little
All right,
small, but we see it.
Yeah, so this is just real quick to show you where we're located on the east side of Hudson Street. Be the right side as you head north. You can see the Assabet River in the back. So this is a Google Earth Street View, which you may recognize. Again, this is on the right side as you're traveling north. And it shows really couple important things about the property. As I'll explain in a minute, we're filing, we're proposing work in the riverfront. We're filing under the redevelopment provisions. The property, the work area really consists almost entirely of two components. We have this gravel parking area here, and then as you can see, the whole frontage of the site, and it extends back into the site, is really just this wall of Japanese knotweed, which, as I'm sure you know, is high on the list of the state's invasives. So in terms of resources, we have, again, Hudson Street up at the top. We have the Assabet River in the back. These resource areas, you may recall, last year we went through the ANRAD process and got these all worked out. So the resource areas that you see in the plan are those that you reviewed as part of that ANRAD process. So basically, we have mean annual high water of the river, which projects the riverfront. We have the inner, in red, we have the inner riparian and the outer riparian. We have bordering vegetative wetland that runs through this area here. So we have BVW line here in green, and then the second one that kind of angles across like this. So upland here, BVW along the river and kind of angling up in this way. We also have FEMA mapped floodplain that has a profile along the river. Vito put that on the plan. It's 252.7, I think, which is the blue line. So those are the resource areas that we're dealing with. We also, as I said, if you remember my first image or the last image I had, the street view, this is that gravel parking area up here, which we're calling degraded riverfront. So then I'll switch to the proposed plan and maybe make it a little bigger. So this plan also has, I added on 25-foot buffer to this BVW line. I should probably mention one of Vinny's comments that he raised was that we didn't show the 25-foot buffer to bordering land subject to flooding. And I looked at your bylaw and I found what I consider very clear language that said that the bordering land subject to flooding does not have a buffer zone. So that's why we didn't put those lines on the plan. But in any event, what is proposed is this duplex residence kind of jammed up in the corner up here. You'll see it does it is proposing work in the outer riparian, and it is proposing work in the floodplain. With respect to the floodplain, you'll notice there's grade lines over here of this grade being pulled back, and then similarly up here, this you can see existing contours coming down here. Those contour lines are pulled back toward the street to basically create this compensatory flood storage area for the proposed filling here. The dark line is a proposed retaining wall, very tight construction, really no yard to speak of. With respect to the compensatory flood storage on the plan, Vito has the cut and fill summary, and there's a net increase aggregate of about 900 cubic feet, excuse me, of flood storage proposed. The other significant thing that's proposed here, you heard me mention the knotweed. You see this crosshatch across this whole area. The knotweed that you saw, that wall up on the street up here, extends back to this area. It in fact goes a little bit into the BVW. There was a little bit of skunk cabbage poking up within the knotweed, but other than that, this area is almost 100% of the Japanese knotweed. So there's a pretty ambitious plan that's part of the notice of intent to go in and manage that knotweed. It does require, the only effective way to manage knotweed is controlled use of herbicides. So we propose, basically the recommended protocol is cut it. There's a specific time period, cut it, and then treat it with glyphosate, which is Roundup. And then with that, there's a pretty aggressive planting plan of 180 some odd shrubs, I think we propose to put in there, as well as herbaceous plantings. We actually revisited the planting plan that we submitted initially, and are proposing some tweaks to that. But basically the overall scheme of going in and aggressively managing that knotweed, it would require some follow-up years, because you can't expect to get it 100% in the first year. As I said, the duplex is proposed up here. Vito has designed stormwater treatment to infiltrate and treat the runoff that's proposed up here. Right now, there is, from this gravel parking area, there is no treatment. The other thing that you'll see over here is there's an existing concentrated flow that comes off the street here that's kind of created a scoured channel down that slope. So Vito has proposed to put in a little area of stone channel, basically to get that down there to prevent any further erosion from that concentrated flow there. In terms of performance standards, we are proposing work in the BVW consisting only of the invasives management. We've requested a waiver for that. We're obviously working within your 25-foot offset as well. There are no structures proposed within your 35-foot BVW buffer. There's clearly alteration to BVW proposed, but it's purely in the form of what we believe is an enhancement. Bordering land subject to flooding, as I said, there's a modest, 900 or so cubic foot increase in flood storage, or cumulative over those increments. And lastly, we have riverfront, as I said.
Mhm.
The work is proposed, a good part of it up here. The building is in the outer riparian. As I said, excuse me, as I said, we filed under the redevelopment provisions for riverfront. The standard there is to show an improvement. In his last set of comments, Vinny asked us to provide some more detail in terms of specific wetland interests where we think this improvement would occur. We've done that, but briefly, it comes down to providing this additional stormwater treatment, infiltration, and water quality treatment, and to a large degree the benefits from the invasives management. Knotweed, as I said, is pretty well known to be high on the invasives list, and there's a real opportunity to create some better habitat, wildlife food source within this area, within the wetland and buffer zone and BLSF, and some other water quality improvements and associated with not only that but also the stormwater management. So that's really it. As I said, we are working through comments. We'll have a follow-up to Vinny very soon. Vito, anything that I missed that you think we should add?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered most everything. If you want me to go over the stormwater in just a little bit more detail, I could do that.
Yeah, that might make sense. You're obviously better equipped than I.
Sure. So essentially what we did was we tried to collect the driveway runoff and most of the roof runoff. And we collected the driveway through a trench drain. So it spans the entire frontage of the driveway so that nothing can leave the site. It can't get out into Hudson Street at all. So it all gets collected there. It gets passed through a treatment structure. Right now we're proposing a storm scepter just to remove the sediments, floatables, any hydrocarbons. And then it goes on to the infiltration system that would be located under the driveway. And that's a typical prefab plastic chambers, the Cultex. And we did soil testing in that area maybe a month or so ago and found suitable soils. There is some fill in that area, but underneath the fill was permeable sand. It was a medium to coarse sand. So as long as we remove the fill, it's good conditions for that infiltration system in that area. And then we have a small overflow during your very high storm events. It's only a 4-inch PVC overflow, and that goes to the side into that compensatory storage area with the stabilized outlet with a riprap pad. So during most storm events through your approximately about a 4-inch storm, you won't have any runoff leaving from that system. Just once you get over that, it would bleed out through that 4-inch pipe. And it does comply with all the DEP stormwater standards, even though it's a duplex and doesn't trigger the threshold or the need for that. It does comply with all the standards for Mass DEP also.
Okay.
That's all we have for that.
Thanks, Vito. All right. Well, we've walked this lot several times, and it's really very wet on that side.
It is, Mr. Chairman. I mean, you can see this is the what I'll call the front BVW line is this what I've highlighted in green.
Yeah.
But everything except for the mitigation is well forward of that.
Okay, let me do some thinking. Commissioners, questions, comments, concerns?
How are you going to use the, or what are you going to use to remove the knotweed? Are you using machines, or is it people going in there, or a combination?
It would be cut by hand and bagged, and then foliar treatment.
Okay.
How many treatments have you planned, or are you suggesting?
Probably 3 where you know, historically when you do this, you know, from talking to people that have done more of it than I, and reading, you know, the first treatment you tend to get, you know, in the vicinity of 80 or 90%. And then, you know, you get up 95%, you know, in general terms, on the second time. And then the third time, you know, you get a little better than that. So, and then the intent of a system, you know, of a proposal like this is that, you know, you heavily manage it for that period. Excuse me. And then during that time, the planted vegetation has a chance to really go and take root, and you know, and you know, once that takes root, it will have a much better ability to compete with the knotweed. You know, this is all it's been a historically beat up area. As Vito said, there's fill that he saw in his test pit. You can tell that slope is fill. And this, you know, the situation with the fill was ripe for the invasive coming in.
So 3 treatments in a single season, or this is over 3 successive years?
No, that'd be 3 years, sorry.
One more question. Did you do an alternative analysis?
We did do some alternatives. Vinny had a comment about that. But I would comment that, as I said, we're working under the redevelopment provisions of 1058-5, which does not require an alternatives analysis. We did provide some information regarding alternatives at Vinny's request. And we'll have some additional information in our follow-up as he requested. But under 1058-5, you know, there's really a different approach that the regs take when you have a redevelopment situation.
Vinny, a question on redevelopment here. I mean, the redevelopment area is about, I mean, it's a very small area in the context here. So you're going way beyond that area to redevelop into where the proposed duplex is.
No, that's true. I mean, the gravel parking area, it's hard to see on this plan. It's very busy, but the redevelopment provisions talk about the ability under 1058-5 to go beyond the footprint of the redevelopment when there's additional mitigation, which can take any number of forms. When there's additional mitigation proposed, such that the net result of the work is an improvement of the ability of the site to protect the interests of the act. And you know, we feel that you know, given the scope and the scale of the mitigation that's proposed, we feel that standard is met. Specifically, it requires a 2-to-1 on the basis of area, which I should have mentioned that, but as you can see, you know, easily just graphically, you know, the redevelopment area is up here. The portion of the development not within the redevelopment is this, but all of this area is the proposed mitigation, which is far exceeds the 2-to-1 requirement.
Okay. So,
Yeah, just to respond to your question, Greg, the idea of the redevelopment option is, I think, as you say, Greg, the idea of it should be reasonable, associated with the amount of the site that is previously developed. And so there is just a smaller portion, I'm not sure what the square footage is, of what is currently in a redevelopment or an impacted state, a degraded state within the riverfront area, but the regulation states that the Conservation Commission may allow this if there are benefits to the interests of the act. And that's where I'm saying is that I'm not sure that the intensity of this development is needed. They could do the alternative instead of a duplex, put in a single family unit in there, have less of an impact, and still can be considered a redevelopment project and not have to do as much of this other bordering land subject to flooding excavation work, which is pretty extensive. Because right now, the whole site from the wetland line north, or I'm assuming kind of north, is up northwest, is pretty much all going to be altered. So there could be less alteration, and that's all within the riverfront area.
Yeah. I'm just trying to, in my simple mind here, I'm saying, well, we're looking here at saying, okay, we're going to let you build a duplexes inside the floodplain in return for 3-year control of Japanese knotweed.
That seemed like a fair exchange to me.
Yeah, there you go. So,
Well, I mean, in terms of, I don't think it's appropriate to call it an exchange. I mean, the exchange is taking out close to a half acre of a monoculture or pretty close to a monoculture of knotweed, and having as I said, the regs talk about a 2-to-1 area comparison. We're far exceeding that. I forget what the number is, but it's clearly far in excess of that. So yes, I agree. There is a substantial footprint of work, but again, there's no work proposed in an area with a natural plant community. So it's, if we were proposing to do this and to do it required, cutting down that close to a half acre of natural riverfront, then, it'd be a totally different question. I mean, I wouldn't be here if that were the case, because it just wouldn't pass muster. But again, this is a site with significant adverse condition, and this is proposed to go in and alter that condition for the better. With respect to the single family house, you could put a single family house with a slightly smaller footprint, but it would only be marginally smaller. I mean, it would still, this is proposed at the zoning setback, just inside the zoning setback. And a single family house would be somewhat smaller. We do provide some additional information in the next submittal on that issue, but it would not dramatically change the footprint of the work. Again, in terms of alternatives, there's really just enough room around the building, the proposed building, to build it. And Vinny had asked the question about, we had made a statement in the initial submittal about the project design limiting future encroachment, and he essentially asked, what do you mean by that? And what I meant is that for tight lots, I'm sure you've had your experience with tight lots, and what I refer to as lawn creep. There really isn't the opportunity for lawn creep here, because you have a 1-to-1 slope over here, and you have a vertical wall here. So the limits of the developed area are, they're clear, they're unambiguous, and they're not something that your average homeowner would simply be capable of working around. Unlike a situation where you have kind of the edge of lawn, and it's somewhat it's a lot simpler for someone to go and have that edge creep out. So I think when you look at the redevelopment provisions, there's a lot of flexibility built in there. And the reason for that is because, you know, when they wrote the regs, they looked at it and said, you know, that the regs were intended to encourage redevelopment. And there's a lot of flexibility built in there, you know, for that same reason. And so I think, you know, it really falls to the question of, you know, do you as the commission see this existing condition as an adverse one with respect to the wetland interests, and the proposed condition as an improvement relative to that? I mean, I you know, firmly believe that it passes muster.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, Greg, if I
ahead,
could, just you talked about the knotweed, the treatments for 3 years or whatever that might be, but there's knotweed on both ends of this section, and I assume you're going to be doing additional management proposals in the resubmittal, but how are you going to keep that knotweed out of there after the 2-year monitoring period? Because the house is going to be there for a long time. And I'm not sure I'm pretty sure the homeowners won't know how to do all this. There needs to be some kind of requirements to keep that area that gets restored to be a good native wetland and buffer area in that condition to keep the knotweed out. So how is that going to be done?
Well, the primary way is to do that, as I said, is to make sure you have a good, you know, good cover with, you know, with native vegetation. You know, there's knotweed up and down the street. You know, this is a really dense patch, and you know, I can't promise that we'll keep it out 100%. But you know, the goal is to provide and promote that native plant community, and get it established long enough so that it can compete.
okay. Is there an alternative to Roundup?
For knotweed, everything that I know about it and have read about it, is that's the recommended way to deal with it.
It's not 100%. There's always some that comes back.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yeah.
I have a question. I don't really understand why we're doing this as a redevelopment, considering it's a 60 by 60 area that was excavated for a sewer easement that generated some gravel for a parking spot. I don't see how that justifies redevelopment of a house. That doesn't make sense to me. You know, that spot was generated when the sewer was done and there was excess material. It wasn't like there was a pre-existing house here that burnt down, fell down, or that there was an existing septic system in a house that was here. I don't see it as a redevelopment, personally.
Well, I wasn't aware of the history of it. I mean, we go out and the regs tell us to go out and look and document the existing conditions. They define what what qualifies as degraded, and then the regs provide provide a process for looking at that and potentially using 1058.5 degraded provisions for going forward. As I said, if this lot had existed in a as a natural plant community, and there wasn't the situation of a diminished capacity with respect to the knotweed, it would be a different calculation. You know, it would be a different approach. But that's the situation that we find, and the regs, you know, the regs lay out this path that we've put forward.
Right. The other comment I have is I walked through this lot a week ago, and basically where proposed unit A is almost up to the flood storage line, there was standing water right in that center. So I don't see that this is mapped right. I don't understand why there would be a puddle in the middle of unit A.
I don't know. I mean, there may be, you know, down here a little bit of a depression that doesn't show up on the topography, but you can see contours coming across here. I mean, overall, the grade is clearly coming down in this direction. So I don't know the area that you're referring to. I know we went out there. Vinny was out there with us a couple times, you know, looking at the delineations. So, you know, I take your word that there was a little pocket depression in here that doesn't show up on the topo. But it you know, again, it doesn't, that wouldn't, you know, clearly it would be you know, too small for to be land, you know, isolated land subject to flooding. It's within the bordering land subject to flooding. So I don't think it changes the jurisdictional limits.
Hey, Vinny, following up on Tom's question there, I've been wondering this since I looked at it. Have you looked at the approved ANRAD against the delineations here? So I thought when we walked the site, we found skunk cabbage, and a little bit of it rolled out and bellied out, and we found skunk cabbage up close to where the deck is in Unit
A. That one we actually didn't on the revised version. The most current version on the ANRAD had just that area that's on the west corner that's bumped out close to the road.
Yep.
And it didn't even go up to where the pipe discharges, which is right on the corner, on the west corner. So that one, it's the knotweed is just taken over and kind of covered everything else up and doesn't allow anything else to grow. Skunk cabbage comes up because it shoots in early before the knotweed gets strong enough to cover it over. So that's the only thing that seems to be able to beat it back, or at least hold its own, hold its ground. But that area that's up near that unit is, there is a shallow spot that does have, it looks like at the surface that it does hold water, like Tom said, but it didn't have the plant community.
Okay. Again, it's a wet lot, it's a wet site.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Other comments, question from the commission?
My only comment, just quick, Greg, considerable amount of work certainly to get 2 units in here. With everything, with the retaining wall, the stormwater, and the you know, no yards and those type of things. But just kind of wondering, and this might be something, you know, down the road, if we close this and move forward, would be some type of assurance on the knotweed mitigation. And I'm trying to think of how we would do something like that. I mean, obviously, we're talking a few years here, and just knowing how these things tend to go is, you know, once the unit's done, we get people coming in front of us hot to get a certificate of compliance so they can close on their financing and everything for these deals. And I think we would want to somehow have assurance that the knotweed's actually going to be worked for a few years and make sure that that actually gets out of there. So I think, you know, more long term, I guess more for us to think about as a commission, and maybe Vinny, and maybe something that could be proposed by the applicant as far as how we get assurance, you know, multiple years out after these things potentially could get sold and people walk away from this, that that things are going to continue to happen and be maintained before we issue any certificate of compliance on this thing down the road. So I guess more just something for us to keep in mind as this moves forward.
Justin, I would say that we make them bond for it. And bond it
Yeah.
for some limited time, 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. Definitely something like that we would want.
Okay,
Good idea.
good. Any other questions, comments in the commission? No? Let me see if we have any public comments here. I don't see any hands up. Nope. Okay. So Vinny, you're waiting on some information, right?
Yes, yeah, they responded to a lot of things. We just need to get it documented.
Yep.
So
Yep.
probably continue.
So Paul, we're looking at a continuation to June 10?
So requested.
Yes, just saying June 10, okay. Then we need a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded by Diane. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner,
yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
I vote yes. June 10th.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all. And
Thank you, folks.
Vinny will be in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Paul.
right.
Thanks,
Have a-
Vito.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. Okay.
I think Vito's staying, or
We are looking here now. The next one on the agenda
Nope.
is a continuation for 289 Lyman Street. This is, I believe, this is the one we looked at length last month at, and we, I believe, approved conceptually what they were going to do. The problem was there was no DEP number at the time.
that is correct.
So it sounds like if the DEP number didn't have any significant comments, we could just go ahead and vote that.
That sounds good to me. There were no significant comments from DEP.
The commission agree that we can go ahead and vote on this, given the discussion last month?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Tom, I think you need to recluse on this, right? Recuse? Well, no, you were here last month.
No, I was in the meeting.
Yep, Tom was here. Diane was not.
Diane was not here, right? Okay.
Yes.
Tom was here. He was a little bit garbled last month, if I remember. So we're good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we need a motion to issue a,
Close the hearing.
I'm sorry, yes, we need a motion to close the hearing for 289 Lyman Street.
Make a motion to close the hearing, 289 Lyman Street.
Second.
Seconded by Todd. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner,
Abstain,
abstain, Todd Helwig.
Yes.
I vote yes. Hearing is closed. Now we need a motion to issue an order of conditions for 289 Lyman Street. Did we have any, there were no special conditions, were there?
All right, let me read through that one. No, just our typical conditions, and that was it. Yes,
Okay.
no need for signage or setbacks or anything like that.
No.
Make a motion to issue order conditions for 289 Lyman Street.
Second.
Seconded by Dan. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane, you cannot. Todd Helwig. Oh, you're muted, Todd.
Sorry. House stuff.
Mm.
Yes, I approve.
Thank you. And I vote yes. Done. We good, Vinny?
Yes, that's good.
Da.
Vito's back.
Vito is back. We're at 99 Crawford Street, however.
Is there a Zecco?
For Michael Zecco here. Let me take a look. Yes, hand up.
He might not be here.
Oh, somebody had their hand up. Let me double check again here. Nope. No. Just one of the 1,000 attendees that showed some excitement for a moment there. Yes. Okay, so 99 Crawford Street. You want to give us the setup there on that one, Vito?
Sure. So it's Vito Colonna, Cornerstone Engineering. So we are, let me just share my screen first. Okay, so we are at 99 Crawford Street. It's a fairly large parcel. It's 46 acres. It's highlighted in blue here. Most of you know it. You drive by it all the time. There's an existing house down on the corner over here that fronts over onto Crawford Street. The backland itself is all wooded. It's fairly steep. After behind the house, it goes up really fast in topography. And all this area in the back is just basically woodlands. There are some wetlands up down at the other end of the site, down in here. And then across the street is this large wetland and floodplain across the road right there. I'm just going to switch over to the plan. Okay, so the plan itself is, the proposal is to remove the existing house and construct a new house in essentially the same location. Maybe a little tough to read, but the existing house is shown right through here. And then the proposed house is the bold line basically right on top of it. So we're proposing a new house, then put in a new septic system right over in here, and then maintain their connection to their water service. So they actually put a new one in and keep the connection out in the street. And then also part of the work, they want to reconfigure the driveway to work with the new garage location. We did look at options to keep the driveway on the same side, basically same footprint, but they want to maximize southern exposure on the living space in the house. So that would put your driveway, garage on the north side of the house. So it seemed to make sense to take advantage of that southerly exposure. Given the big hill in the back, you only have limited window of sunshine through those couple hours of the day. As I said, the wetland there's a large wetland off to the side on the opposite side of Crawford Street. And that 100-foot buffer zone extends right up through the front of the site, kind of right through right here. So the only work we're actually proposing under this notice of intent is just that portion of the driveway right here, and then our water connection up to the shutoff. The driveway surface within the buffer zone would reduce some of that impervious area. I think we had a reduction of about 360 square feet of impervious within the buffer. And so that limit of work it's fairly small. And we tried to keep everything else outside that buffer zone. Just one other thing to note with the site, there is an easement. DCR has an easement over the site related to flood storage, and their easement goes up to the 319.2 elevation. So it runs with that contour elevation. And that's highlighted in this darker line right through there. And basically the only conditions with that is we can't put any fill in that area. We can cut the grade away and make elevations lower, but we can't add fill to it, similar like how you have for your BLSF standards. And they're going through the process with DCR. It's gone through the first reviews, and they're actually in the process of writing their approval letter, but it has to go through many levels through the department. But we've got word back that they're in the process of writing the approval letter. It just needs to kind of go through the higher ups before that gets issued. I think that's kind of where we are. Fairly quick overview. I can hand it back over for any questions.
I mean, no, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward project from our standpoint too. We're barely touching the jurisdiction side. And you're proposing just some instead of Barry, what just a fence or the wattles?
I think we just had silt fence. We just showed silt fence on there just because you know, the kind of the limited area. So we put silt fence in around this lower area. There's a big berm kind of on this side that blocks that flow. So it'd just be over this lower area, and then a second one when they do the water connection work. And then across the driveway where they cut that driveway, we're going to put should be straw bales during construction. So after work hours, they put the straw bales down, and just when they come in and out, they'll have to move them during construction. That way, any runoff during the off hours, we get trapped right there.
Okay. Good. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Looks pretty straightforward to me.
Yep. Okay, we'll check then if we have any public comment.
Just real quick, Vito, no increase in flow then down to Crawford Street or anything as part of this, just with the new driveway configuration and everything. I know DPW has some concerns about water from properties, from driveways kind of flowing out onto the main road.
So we didn't go through the calculations for pre and post runoff. What we did, it was actually a suggestion from Vinny, is just pitch this over into the grassed areas. So all the new driveway would go onto the lawn areas to get some infiltration in there rather than funnel it right down. We're just looking at the numbers. We're fairly close on impervious areas, less in the buffer, but there may be a small increase, with this end of the house right in here. But we're comparable, and we're trying to shed that off onto the impervious surfaces to try to reduce that. One thing with this is we don't need a driveway curb cut permit from DPW, just because
you have one. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Anything else? Any more questions? Comments? I don't see any hands raised. So we can move ahead to close the hearing for 99 Crawford Street.
I make a motion to close the hearing for 99 Crawford Street.
Is there a second? Seconded by, was that Justin?
Yeah.
Roll call. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Diane Goldner.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Hearing is closed. Vinny, no special conditions required in this one?
Nope, I think we put in a sign on this one, did we? The wetland sign? Or did
Don't
I
need
not?
this one just
Oh,
because
there's no wetlands. That's
Yeah.
right. The wetland's on the other side of the road.
it's
So we
down the
didn't
road,
need to.
Okay, there'll be a lot of signs too, Vinny, on the other side of the road.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're going to issue an order of condition for 99 Crawford Street.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Diane Goldner.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
All right, thank you.
All set, Vito. Thank you. Uh, 175 Rice Avenue, Matthew Stone. Matthew, I'm going to bring you into the meeting. I think I am. Vito, are you in this one too?
Yep,
Is Matthew?
Yeah.
Should we
kind of
move
saved
ahead?
up a few to do them all at once.
Okay. All right.
We can start. Oh, there's Matt. Okay. There it goes.
I don't see him yet, but maybe he's there.
I see him on there. There we go.
Thank you. Oops, sorry about that.
It's all right. Got you, Matt. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
All right. We'll let Vito drive this, or do you want to take it?
I
Yeah,
think-
Vito doesn't mind.
Yep,
Okay.
I'll take it. Okay. Get the screen up again. Okay, so we're at Rice Ave, 175. It's a 1.4 acre parcel. Existing house built in 1974, right up in the middle here.
Mm-hmm.
driveway comes off the road. There's like a kind of a knoll on the left-hand side as you're coming in. And then around the back side and this side are wetland resource areas. We have a stream in the back, perennial stream that goes through the back. It's kind of ponded up right through here, but there's stream on this side and stream on that side. And essentially the whole thing was regulated as a perennial stream. So it has its riverfront area. We have the 100-foot coming out here, and then the 200-foot extends basically over the entire property. There's a section of BBW that kind of expands out through here, and there's also the 100-foot off that extends out into the site here. The other resource area on the site is the 100-year floodplain or bordering land subject to flooding. And it's going to be a little tough to see on this screen, but there's a darker line that runs right through here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of wraps around and comes up right through there. So those are our resource areas on the site. And the proposal essentially is in the back here, they're looking to do a 16 by 16 addition right on the back here, and then expand or remove and then enlarge the deck right here. There's an existing deck right in here, and they want to expand that along the side of the addition. The area where all the work is, it's disturbed, it's lawn, or there's a concrete walk running across here and a portion of the patio under there. And then the second portion of the work is there was a previous above ground pool right in here. And as you can see, these kind of contours wrap up. So they just like to smooth that out, regrade that area, reloam and seed it. So no development there, just they'd rather, you know, it had kind of a little depression right there that they just like to smooth out, make it more of a usable yard area than what it is today. So I think we did get some comments back from Vinny that we resent plans in the other day. I think we addressed those. One of them was to include a sign down near the end of the driveway. It seems like an obvious spot to put the sign that he recommended. Just so you come down the driveway, you wouldn't dump stuff off at the end. You just get reminded that, you know, the wetlands are right there. We had some inspection notes, stabilization notes that he recommended, and some maintenance on the silt fence. And then also designated this construction access if they need it. Just during the work, this is a fairly steep little area. So it'd be good to have some stabilized stone in there. Just as they're coming in and out. There shouldn't be too much construction traffic. This would be built on piers, so there isn't a full foundation. So there's not really that much excavation work that would have to take place for this. So it'd be limited traffic, but just in case, we did show that running through there. And then we also did get some comments back from DEP. Just the other day, we got those, and theirs was more just clarifying some of the riverfront area standards to make sure we meet those. I did provide a quick letter over to Vinny. I can go through them if you want, unless I don't know if Vinny had any questions with those. But essentially, it's just showing that, you know, we're not disturbing any of the existing vegetation. One of their standards is 100 feet of natural vegetation if it's there. There isn't that on this site, so we just basically don't disturb any more vegetation. There's no tree clearing, no expansion of the lawn into those areas. We're less than the 10% riverfront area disturbance. I think we're at 3.8%, if I can remember right. So we meet all those standards, and I just kind of ran through that quickly for Vinny. I just sent that over. It was only today, but we did just get those comments in from DEP. And we also did show, we did alter the buffer. Vinny suggested that we show that off the BLSF. I know we talked about that in the previous project, or one of the earlier projects tonight, but we just showed it this way, just to be conservative and, you know, not really raise any questions with that. So that's really our quick presentation. We'll hand it back over. Questions?
Good, thanks, Vito. Vinny, did we get a DEP number?
Yep, we did.
We did.
Yep.
That just came in today?
Yeah, I think it was today or maybe late Friday. I had just seen it today.
Do you have the number in front of you, Vito, so I can write it down?
Yep, it's 247-1250.
Okay, good. Yeah, pretty straightforward. I think everything's outside 35. Not a lot of disruption. Any questions from the commission, comments, concerns? Looking through. Tom Beals, you're muted. Now you're good.
Here we go. Anyways, this looks pretty straightforward and I don't see any objections to, being able to approve this and get them going.
Okay,
Beautiful.
fair enough. Everybody else good?
Mhm.
Yep.
We'll take a quick look here. Any public comments?
Yeah. And the only comment when Greg and I were out there at the site, we talked to Matt and suggested he consider the helical piles. So Vito, if you just look at that, it's less impact. He's going to be putting in a few of them out there.
Yep.
So that might help with reducing the access down there.
Yeah, I think he was talking about that. They were going to use those.
Okay, good.
Okay. Then we can move forward here with to close the hearing on 175 Rice Avenue.
To make a motion to close 175 Rice Avenue.
Second,
Seconded by Diane. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Hearing is closed. No special conditions, Vinnie?
Just a standard one, I think.
Standard boilerplate?
Yes.
Okay. Need a motion on 175 Rice Avenue, order of conditions.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 175 Rice Ave.
Okay.
Standard conditions.
Second,
Seconded by Tom. Roll call. Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Vito, you done with us for the evening?
No, I
No.
got two more.
Okay. Um,
Thanks, Vito.
All right, thank you.
thanks, Matt. 668 Howard Street,
Right.
and that is you, I take it.
Yep.
And anybody else here? I see no more hands up. Anybody you want to bring in, Vito?
No, I don't see anyone on here, so I think we're all set.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're at 660 Howard Street. It's a new A&R lot off of, there's an existing farm property out there. It's 20.2 acres about.
It's the old Bennett Farm, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. And so right now, this is one of the sons. He's looking to divide off an A&R lot, 80,000 square foot lot, about, I think it's 81,000 square feet, which is the minimum for zoning. And this is about the location kind of on the frontage. If you've driven by, there's that field that forget if the tractor is still there. I think that's been moved. But the house is up the street right there. I think most people have driven by and seen this. Let me just see if I can get from jump over the site plans. All right, so what he's looking to do is, so they're dividing off this lot and then looking to put a new house in, partially within that field area and partially within that wooded area adjacent to the field. There were wetlands delineated by Dave Burke. One is to the south of the site. There's a stone wall that runs along this edge, and there are wetlands just beyond that. And the 100-foot buffer extends up. It's into the field area. The field comes down and ends right near there. And then there's also a wetland that kind of runs in the back over in this corner. So we have 100-foot buffers that kind of pinch us in from both sides. So what we did was put the house up closer to the street. So that would be outside the 100-foot buffer, and then also the septic system right in here. And the drinking water well is on the other side of the house. So all that work is staying outside the 100-foot buffers, and the only work we had in the buffer was some slope grading off the edge of the septic system. There was relatively high groundwater out there, so the septic system is a mounded system. So it just required a little bit of grading right in there. And that's all within the existing field area. So there's no real mature trees to be cut within the buffer, just to get that little bit of grading in. And then up in this area, it's the rear yard area. And they really wanted to kind of grade some of that off and then clear that out. If I go back to the photo of it, this is that area through here. And it's really overgrown with, vines and low brush, and they really just wanted to kind of make that area a more usable yard behind the house, right up in here. So that area had an area of about 3,500 square feet. And then the small area in the bottom was about 600 square feet. We did get comments from Vinny again on these, and we added the signs. We put them down in this area. It seemed to make sense at the edge of the field, just so if they were maintaining the field, they wouldn't go any further, start clearing more than they were supposed to. We added some notes about the sediment barriers, maintenance, stabilization. And then there was also a question about the driveway and the grading. And we just added some spot grades just to clarify. The road's up at 406.2 here, and the garage is down at 405. So essentially, it would grade down from the road and then swale to both sides. So there's no runoff that would be going towards Howard Street. It would all be coming into the site and then swaling around the project on both sides. So I think that's all we have. Again, I'll hand it back over.
Good, thanks, Dino. Another one that's barely jurisdictional. Vinny, any questions from your side?
No, I think it's pretty clear. They're putting
Yeah.
in a new house, new septic, and they're keeping it as far away as possible.
Yep.
Once we get those sediment barrier details down, we won't have any comments.
Someday I'll get them.
Any questions, comments from the commission?
No.
Looks fine to me.
Same.
Okay. Double check with the public. Any public attendees? Questions? Nope. Okay, we're gonna need a motion to close the hearing for 660A Howard Street.
So close.
Second.
Seconded by Todd. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Hearing is closed. Now we need a motion for issue a notice of intent for 660 Howard Street with the standard terms and conditions.
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
Seconded by Justin. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, done.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Last one, right, Vito?
Yep, this is it.
317 Crawford Street. This is a stormwater and land disturbance permit application.
Right, and this one we should have some people. Vadim is in the audience. If you may need to bring him in, but
Okay,
if you just want to, just in case.
there are no hands up yet.
Okay, he can stay out if we need he's the owner, not the
What-
applicant, so.
What's his name?
Vadim,
Yes.
so we may or may not need him. So I'll
Well,
just,
I'll ask him. Vadim, do you want to come into the meeting?
no.
Wait, now we got it.
Oh, there he goes.
Yep, okay. I'm gonna bring him in.
Just in case there's a question.
Sure.
Probably don't need him, but.
Sure.
Okay, so share the screen again. Okay, so 317 Crawford Street. So this one's, obviously a little more complicated than the last few ones we've been going through.
Welcome, Vadim. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go. All right. So I know you guys, dealt a lot with the abutting lot next door, at 311 Crawford Street. And this was part of that 4-lot A&R, which is why we triggered the need for the stormwater permit.
Right.
Or land disturbance permit. The overall disturbance on this lot is about 40,000 square feet, so it would be under that, but given the grander plan, we're here before you for this point. So the proposal is for a 4-bedroom house. Right now it's existing that there's essentially no development on site, except for where there was a previous barn up in there. It's since been taken down. But the rest of the site is wooded. It's fairly steep sloped, about 15% average grade through the site. And currently everything drains down towards Crawford Street. There's a high point in Crawford Street down in this area. And so everything drains to a low point right in here. And there's an existing head wall right there and an old stone culvert that runs into Crawford Street. And that's kind of the collection point for everything that comes off the site and everything from Crawford Street in this area. The stone culvert was partially filled in. It looked to be about a 1-by-1 culvert, and I don't know the condition of it or where it discharges to. But I, like you, I drive by this twice a day, every day, and I still have not seen this ever ponding up or backing up ever. And that's where this area all drains down into this area here. So, yeah, we tried to look where this goes to, but we're not clear right now. We can try to ask DPW if they have any records of where that may drain to. But essentially what we're looking to do here is a 4-bedroom house, driveway coming up off Crawford Street, up to a garage here, and then kind of a driveway pad to allow a couple extra parking spaces, and then a turnout area from the garage in here. We have a septic system proposed on this side. We're testing with Board of Health, found suitable soils. And actually, as the testing got closer towards Crawford Street, we had better results. The perk rates here, I believe they were around 15 minutes an inch, and the ones up here were in that 50, 60. We had failures further up the hill, and actually next door there was some failures. So as we're getting closer and closer towards Crawford Street, it's getting slightly better as far as soil conditions go. We did some testing down in the lower portions too, and we found no groundwater to about 42 inches, I think it was in one. I forget, I have the testing on the, sorry, it was 90 inches actually in one of them. So we slowly get better and better as we get towards Crawford Street. So the drainage itself, and the focus of the stormwater permit is we're looking to first divert runoff around the site. So from this big hill, we're looking to divert clean water around the site, around the development itself. And then internally on the development, we've collected the roof area and sent it to this large dry well underground. And also the upper portion of the driveway right here, we've collected with deep sump catch basins to give the 25% TSS removal for pre-treatment, and then into the dry well here. And then we also collected the rear yard area through an area drain. And that would be just clean runoff that doesn't require any pre-treatment. This infiltrates everything through or up to a 10-year storm. And then once that starts overflowing, it would discharge down to the bottom of the hill into this fairly large rain garden that we designed at the bottom. And that rain garden would get the overflow from the upper drainage and then also collect any runoff that comes down the driveway, where we put a trench drain across the base of the driveway. So their way, no runoff from the driveway gets out towards Crawford Street, and no runoff from this kind of the core of the development area gets out towards Crawford. That would get collected through a trench drain, pre-treated with a sediment forebay, and then into the rain garden for treatment and infiltration. The rain garden holds all the storms up through a 25-year storm, and then only during the 100-year storm, about 7.8 inches of rain, it would overflow right through this small spillway towards that stone culvert. So pretty much until you have that 100-year storm, you will never see runoff leaving from this developed portion of the site. The only other discharge point would be the rear yard over in here, where we just kind of grade it away and swale it down to the side and let it go over the vegetative surfaces in the way it does today. So we've controlled the peak rate and volume of runoff going towards Crawford Street, and limited any runoff from the driveway areas, also going to Crawford Street. As far as our temporary erosion controls, what we did was, once they get their perimeter erosion control in, we'd try to put this diversion swale in to limit how much runoff gets onto the site, and then would install this kind of just a berm along the bottom to contain everything and bring it down to this low area. And that way, once we're working in here, everything gets contained on site. We have this berm that contains it in here, and then a secondary row of sediment barriers around that also. Would have the temporary gravel construction access coming off the roadway, coming right up through here. It would give us access to the site. And then at the top of that, would have a small diversion swale that would push that water into this temporary basin also. There were some review comments that Vinny did provide, so we're going to provide some backup information. We don't expect to close tonight, obviously. We have some information we need to give him. Some of those being the sizing of the sediment basins. There's various things that we need to provide, and we're happy to do so. I don't think there's anything in there that was too controversial or, kind of showstoppers or anything like that. More just tightening everything up, giving some more details on all the information we provided. The only other thing just to note, I just kind of remembered on the plan, was all of our steep slopes. We had noted it as anything of 2 to 1. We're going to increase that to anything over the 3 to 1. Would get erosion control fabric, Curl-X blankets placed on those, just to help stabilize that and get a quick growth going in there. And with that, I'll hand it back over. Any questions?
Good. Thanks, Vito. Vinny, this seems a lot simpler than the other one.
This is not nearly as steep a slope going right down to the right of way. This one has some space at the bottom, which Vito is taking full advantage of. He's really doing a lot of work right down there. So it's a big improvement. I think it's a workable situation. We just got to nail it down now. The only question I had was the pre-treatment for that extra parking spaces. Looks like it goes out to the area drain. Or the extra parking spaces should have pre-treatment before it gets to that area drain. And if they make that potentially a grass swale or something, they might be able to get it. But something for that paved parking area.
Yep, we can do that.
Because I think I made a comment, but I wasn't clear as to where it was coming from.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was a little confused, but that makes total sense now. So.
Okay, so we need to have some more information first before we can close on this one then.
Yep, and he's still going to need some waivers. I don't see them as insurmountable, but he's going to be submitting a list of the waivers that are needed. One of them is to stay off the 15% slopes, which is the whole site. So he's going to be developing that. He's getting down into the groundwater in some of the areas, so he's going to have justification for that. But generally, he's doing a good job. It's going to be difficult up in the back area there because he's got a 10-foot or 12-foot cut. But he's got a subdrain on there as well. So eventually that hill's going to dry out, we hope. And it should be stabilized on the surface.
Good. Any questions or comments from the commission? Concerns?
Just one thing, Vito, that kind of northerly swale, the one that picks up, looks like a lot of kind of the woods heading down there. You could just kind of dump it out right there at the end. I mean, do you think as it continues down along that edge of the driveway, I just wonder if there should be any type of like pipe under the driveway or something, like a little, almost like a little stilling basin or something at the bottom, and then like pipe it under it so that I could get to that head wall and that culvert, that might head under.
Yeah. Bring it down. Yeah, so that way it doesn't come down and then have to go around the front.
Yeah, just so it doesn't end up like, kind of blowing across the road there or anything like that. Should we do some type of a little pocket or a little pool right there at the bottom just to collect anything before it does get to Crawford? And then at least if it was piped under the driveway, it would make its way to that culvert.
Yep, that makes sense. We could do it that way. Yeah, just pipe it right underneath.
You good, Justin?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Take a look here. Public comments? No, I don't see any hands up. First pass through. Nope. Okay, then we need a motion to continue the stormwater management land disturbance permit for 317 Crawford Street.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Tom. Roll call vote. Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Okay.
June 10th, right, Vito?
Yep, that sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vadim. All right. Continued. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have an NOI and a stormwater management and land disturbance permit application for 187 Lyman Street. They no DEP number still?
Not yet.
Okay. So we're not going to close the hearing tonight. We might as well open it and get a view of what's going on. I think a lot of the folks hanging around probably have questions on that. So who's coming in here? I've got some hands up. I've got Andrew Moritz.
Gary, he's in a butter.
Okay, I'd like to bring in first, let's bring in the presenters.
So Gary DeBlois.
Gary DeBlois?
DeBlois, yeah.
Okay, Gary, I'm bringing you in. How about Ken Sanderson?
Yes, Ken Sanderson, Susan Rook. I think I saw her earlier.
Yep, I'll bring in Susan. John Kirby.
Check with them. I'm not sure of that
Okay.
name.
LEC Environmental is what it says.
Yeah, I think they did the original note delineation.
Okay.
Yeah, there would be Rich Kirby from LEC Associates.
Yep.
Then from DCAM, there'll be Susan Rook,
Yep.
Ken Sanderson, John Cates, and
John Kent.
John, sorry.
and John Kent.
Got
Yep.
it.
2 John K's.
John Cates.
Yep, John Cates and John Kent.
Okay. All right. We have to get more chairs for the conference room. Okay, I think we get everybody.
I think so.
I think we got them.
Okay.
All right.
So Vinny and I have been out there a couple times. Obviously for the drainage piece that we approved earlier, we saw that, and we've spoken to some of the folks here a couple times, so we're familiar with the site. But why don't you tell us what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. I just shift some things around there just while I'm sharing screen. Is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Great, great. So some of you know me, some of you may not. My name is Gary DeBlois. I'm with the Vertex Companies. We're the civil engineer on this project, and like we just talked about, joining me tonight from DCAM, we've got John Kent, who's the project manager, Ken Sanderson and Susan Rook from DCAM's environmental group, and John Cates, who is one of their facilities folks, who serves, kind of represents as the owner of the property. Also is Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental. He's our wetlands biologist who's done the delineation and helped out with putting together the NOI.
Super.
And feel free, as I kind of start describing things here, to jump in with any thoughts or questions you might have as we go through. One of the things I just wanted to start off by putting a slide together here that shows the history of the project. The site is part of the former Westboro State Hospital. More specifically, the power plant hospital was located here. Over the course of, I want to say, about 20 years, the Office of Vehicle Management, or some similar branch of the Commonwealth's government, has used this site for fleet management purposes, and it's still used as that today. It's really used to store the incoming and outgoing state fleet vehicles. As the old vehicles cycle out and folks come in to get the new ones, this is where they're stored in the interim until they're sold by auction. In 2022, the buildings of the former Westboro State Hospital were demolished. And as you can see here, you can really see the the difference in the site before and after. And what we're looking to do here with this project is take that next step in the transition of this site to go from what was formerly the Westboro State Hospital to now what will be a true vehicle management facility for the Office of Vehicle Management. So hopefully here we'll have one that says 2025 and shows a beautiful new facility there at that site. Jumping through some of the existing conditions at the site, I touched on the site's history. As far as where the site's located, you're all aware it's on Lyman Street. One thing about this project is it's half on the Westboro side and half on the Northboro side of the town line. The wetlands and stormwater discharges happen to both be on the Northboro side of that line, and that's why we're here before you tonight, and not on the other side. Also running through some of the existing conditions. The slope generally, the site generally slopes from Lyman Street to the northwest, down to that low-lying area where the wetlands are. And the current site, there's really not much for drainage there. There's a few leftover catch basins that were part of the former development. They connect directly to the municipal drainage system, which discharges to the nearby wetlands. There's no stormwater treatment provided. There's really no way to channel the flow to the storm drainage system in the existing condition. It just runs off overland, some to an isolated wetland on site and some to the bordering vegetated wetland. You can see on this plan where the wetlands lines are highlighted in green. I will let Rich Kirby from LEC jump in here and discuss the wetland resource areas on site.
Thanks, Gary. Rich Kirby from LEC here. And as you can see from the plan, we have two resource areas that we're dealing with associated with this site and project. The first one is the larger wetland system to the top left or north. It's a bordering vegetated wetland. It borders on an intermittent stream. Gary, maybe you could run your cursor over that BVW line right there. Yep. That's it. And we delineated that wetland based on the presence of wetlands vegetation and hydric soils. The second wetland is an isolated vegetated wetland that Gary is pointing out now. That isolated wetland does not appear in previous delineations or mapping for the site and was likely formed when the previous buildings and structures, et cetera, were demolished. Most of that isolated wetland system is on a gravel pad that is the result of that demolition. It does extend into naturally vegetated lands to the north slightly. But what's happened is it's a topographic depression where water accumulates and cattail and some other wetland plants have populated that zone. There's a picture of it on an upcoming slide.
Yeah, one other thing I forgot to mention while running through the existing conditions here too is that with the nature of the site post demolition, really the majority of the site is either asphalt or like a gravel backfill material that was utilized following demolition, and that's really this entire portion of the site is predominantly made up of that gravel mix with some little tufts of grass and other vegetation throughout that area. Jump to as far as what we are proposing at this site. Yep. Oh, sorry, I thought there was a comment. We're proposing to improve the existing facility with paved parking rather than the current mixture of gravel and some grassed areas and some other paved areas. In addition to the paved parking, there would be an office trailer for the staff that are on site every day, which is typically one person. Will include solar canopies, which are shown here, and here, as well as EV charging stations, security fencing around the perimeter, and stormwater management practices. There'll be some other ancillary site improvements, but those are really the major components of the project. In addition to that, the project is proposing to provide some ecological improvements to the site, which Rich will go into some more detail in as we move forward here. But this area in the northwestern portion of the site is currently post demolition gravel and just generally disturbed area, and we would be looking to do some restoration effort in that area. And this area here within the isolated vegetated wetland and its surroundings, we would be looking to enhance that area from an ecological standpoint. Rich will get into both of those in more detail on a subsequent slide. For sediment erosion controls during construction, we would look to use straw wattles or silt socks along the entirety of the perimeter, in addition to a silt fence. And also we would use stabilized construction entrances at any points where the contractor would access or egress the site. With respect to stormwater management improvements, again, I'll go into those in a little bit more detail on a subsequent slide, but we would have a series of catch basins throughout the site, directing runoff to a series to hydrodynamic separators, and eventually to some line detention ponds and discharging to the wetland system to the north and northwest. The last thing I would touch on quickly for the proposed conditions would be our wetland buffer area disturbances. As far as permanent disturbances to the bordering vegetated wetland, that would be limited to, I want to say it's approximately 60 square feet of permanent disturbance to the 100-foot buffer in this location, for discharge of stormwater runoff. Other disturbances to the bordering vegetated wetland buffer would be in this area where we're looking to restore a previously disturbed area. Impacts to the buffer area for the isolated wetland would be within the 100-foot buffer of the isolated wetland. But as far as they're associated with development and improvements to the site, they would all be maintained outside of the 35-foot no-build zone associated with the Northborough bylaw. Any disturbance within that 35-foot area would be strictly limited to improving the ecological conditions of that isolated wetland. Rich, I will let you take over here from the ecological improvement standpoint.
Rich, you're muted.
Thanks. Thanks, Gary.
Rich, before you start, can I ask Gary one quick question?
Absolutely.
So all your work's outside of 35?
Correct.
Except
for the enhancement.
How far outside 35 is it?
I mean, 5 to 10 feet outside of the 35, and that's an approximation. I know it varies a bit here with the fence, but I mean, that could be bumped if somehow, a few feet here or there was the critical number. That fence could move slightly, but we're somewhere in that probably 5 to 8 foot range.
That's great. Right, fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. And I would just add that the majority of that redevelopment is within a previously developed area. And in fact, the enhancement that I'm about to talk about is within the isolated wetland itself and also the 35-foot buffer zone.
Actually, Rich, I'm going to interrupt you. I apologize. You brought up a good point that I didn't think to bring up before. Actually, on this plan, you can see the footprint of the former Westboro State Hospital, one of their buildings right here. And it gives a really good perspective as to where this isolated wetland is located, and where that enhancement would be, you know, just as a perspective of where that site was 2 or 3 years ago. But Rich, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'll let you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So in an effort to try and improve existing conditions, improve the function and value of that isolated wetland, we worked with Vertex to prepare a pretty robust restoration effort that's outlined on this slide, and of course in the NOI application. Our intent is to effectively restore and enhance that isolated wetland and the 35-foot buffer zone that's currently disturbed. Just shy of 11,000 square feet in total. And we have 163 native sapling trees and shrubs that are detailed on those planting specifications on the right, to be installed within those zones. The gravel areas in the pads will be removed, and native topsoil will be intercepted or replaced depending on what we find. We have native seed mixtures that'll be installed. And of course, you know, monitoring for 2 years to make sure that the plants take and that the restoration effort is successful. So by way of pulling back that development farther from the isolated wetland and restoring the wetland itself, along with the 35-foot buffer zone, we believe that, you know, we're significantly improving the function and value of that wetland. Gary also pointed the pollinator meadow to the left, which is to the sort of bottom left, if you will, of that enhancement area. Gary has the number on that pollinator meadow. I don't have the exact number, but given that the wetland and the buffer zone to the wetland enhancement area, the finer hatch, is just shy of 11,000 square feet. You know, it looks like we're looking at about 15 or so thousand square feet of the pollinator meadow. So we'll have 6 inches of a good quality topsoil installed in there. And we specified the Mesic to Dry pollinator seed mix from Ernst Conservation Seeds, which has a collection of pollinator wildflowers for both dry and wetter conditions. So it's a mishmash of probably 30 or 40 different wildflowers, and whatever wants to grow in those environments, you know, will germinate and establish. So I think that covers the enhancement area, but I'm happy to dig into further details if the commission likes.
Yeah, and that the square footage on that pollinator restoration area was I can't jot it down. Oh, 22,300 square feet.
Okay, good.
All right. Now we'll jump to the next. This wants to work. There we go.
Just Gary, excuse me, just to jump in on that last slide, is that there was a line coming from the bottom of the slide going up and into the project? Is that the drainage discharge that the commission just voted to approve at that line that's near the pollinator garden?
This one all the way through here, or this one around this way?
That one to the left side. I don't. Yep. Where is the drainage pipe coming that they already approved?
So the one that they've recently approved is not shown. The existing, and I'm approximate here, but that's the approximate location of the existing drain line that goes through that area. And that's what's shown on our plan. We have not updated based on their proposed design. In approximately, it's in roughly this location. So it's pretty close to their alignment, but that could be off by, you know, 5-10 feet. So I want to be careful not to make any guarantee.
Yeah, no, we're not measuring anything. I'm just so the commission members have an idea that we've already looked at this site, and this was the location where we've approved work to bury a drain line, and it's right next to your project. So that's all. That's no real more detail that is needed.
Problem. So as we jump into our last slide here, just to give a quick rundown on the drainage improvements that we're looking at with this site. As I had mentioned before, we're looking to utilize deep sump catch basins across the site in combination with hydrodynamic separators prior to discharge to line detention ponds. And in one location, it would be going to the IVW at that point, not to a line detention pond. From a runoff rate standpoint, we were able to utilize just these two line detention ponds. The design that we've proposed meets the Mass Stormwater Handbook requirements. We're reducing peak rates in all analyzed rainfall events. And we are providing treatment of the water quality volume in accordance with the handbook. Unfortunately, groundwater recharge is not feasible due to the high groundwater table. When we went out there and did test pits, seasonal high groundwater ranged from 32 to 45 inches below grade. So yeah, it's if you knew how many different versions we tried to go through on the design of this to get infiltration to work, it's really not feasible here because of that groundwater table and the separation that you would need there between the bottom of the practice and the seasonal high water table. Similar to some of the projects prior to us, we would be looking to have, because this will be a publicly bid project, we would be looking for the contractor prior to doing any disturbing activity to submit the stormwater pollution prevention plan to the Conservation Commission for approval. I'm happy to go into any more detail that anyone would like to hear, but I also know you guys had a long agenda tonight, and I don't want to keep going on if it's not helpful. So by all means, ask any questions.
Thanks, Gary.
And we don't have a DEP permit number yet.
Right.
And I think we're still waiting on some of Vin's review comments. So
I've got a couple questions here, and then we'll see if the commission has questions. Then I think we have some public comment lined up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me about your treatment, how you're going to do the treatment provided for WQV.
So we've gone through and we were able to do that again using we were using proprietary products, products by Contact to provide treatment for the WQV. I'm hesitant to pull out calculations right now. From what specific standpoint are you looking at that?
Well, I mean, how, I know we've seen Storm Scepters and other projects, but how is this different? Well, how is the water going to get treated? Explain that to me. That's all. The runoff.
Oh, it's being treated through TSS removal from the deep sump catch basins and the hydrodynamic separators. I want to say we were providing 85 or 88% TSS removal. If I'm, again, just off the top of my head without pulling up.
Close enough, yeah. All right. And also, the cars on an impervious surface, leaks happen, right? And oil drips and so forth. And
correct. And that's where the oil water separator portion of those units will be a huge benefit to getting that out of the runoff.
Okay. I'm good for now. Any other commissioners have questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay. Public comments. We have a hand up. Andrew Moritz had his hand up for almost 2 hours, so let's go to him. Andrew, I'll bring you in. I'm looking. Andrew, are you here? Oh. there he is. Hold on a second. Let's try this again.
Okay, you got me now?
I've got you. Yes, I can hear you. I can't see you. Is that okay?
That's okay. That's fine. You don't want to look at me.
All right. Okay.
Yes, I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to run through my most important concern as quickly as I can. I know that cars have been parked on that site. I've heard for about 20 years. And my big concern is, since those cars are parked on a pervious, grass and soil and so on, contaminants could have easily leaked into the soil. My concern is that before the paving occurs, that soil should be tested to find out what's actually in it, if in fact vehicles have been parked on there for 20 years or more. When I inquired about this site previously, I was told that damaged cars were never stored on site. That is simply not the case. There's a severely damaged car parked on site right now, heavy damage to it. I'm sure it's leaking something. So my major concern is, before this area is paved, that the soil in where the cars are currently parked be tested, since it will eventually be paved. Once the runoff is collected from the paved area, if that soil was contaminated, my limited understanding would be that you'd almost be flushing contaminants into the groundwater. So I think it's very important to test that soil before any paving would occur. My other question is, what is the footprint of the current site compared to the footprint of the proposed site? Is it the same? Is it larger? Is it smaller? Those are my 2 basic questions.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Who wants to take that one?
Gary, you want to handle the footprint question first?
Yeah, I can jump on the footprint question. As an engineer, I always want to give you exact numbers. In this case, I cannot, but just because I don't have down to the square foot. But what I can say is it comprises the same footprint that is currently available to OVM staff. So whether or not they utilize all of those areas at any given time, they potentially could utilize those areas. Actually, if anything, the footprint is being decreased from the standpoint that they could currently utilize a portion of the site here, and up in this area as it's currently constituted. So I take back my first response. I don't have an exact square footage, but the area that could be utilized for vehicle storage will be decreased.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Andrew, thank you for your question with regard to the leaking vehicles. Currently, it's OVM's policy to pump out all the fluids from the vehicles. And as such, we haven't observed any indication of any fluids leaking from the vehicles into the soils. And I say that for a variety of reasons. The vehicles been there obviously for a long time. We've done a variety of site visits. We haven't seen any staining in soils. We don't see any olfactory or visual evidence of the spills. And then furthermore, we've been doing test pitting out there, and in the test pits, we're not seeing any evidence of any oils in the environment. So we're not seeing the evidence of any releases from these vehicles at this time. Through the project, I think, as we're doing the development, if we run into these matters, the Commonwealth will try to address each and every one of them as we observe them through the redevelopment of the property.
Could I ask a follow-up question to that?
Certainly, go ahead.
The vehicle that is currently stored on site is heavily, heavily damaged. It looked like it ran into a telephone pole or a tree or something. And I'm not an automobile mechanic, but I would find it pretty difficult to understand how the fluids could have been drained from that vehicle, considering the massive damage to the front of that car. And, you know, that would have been an incident, since that car is there. There may have been similar vehicles, you know, in that condition. I wouldn't, and again, I'm not a mechanic, so I wouldn't know how those fluids could have been drained out unless it was done before the vehicle was dropped off. Are you aware of that, or?
That specific vehicle you're talking about, I don't know if there's a lot of vehicles there right now. We certainly can look into that a little bit further for the next hearing. But if there's any, again, any reportable type of condition that would have to be addressed by a cleanup, that would be managed by the Commonwealth, and we would take care of that.
And Ken, if I could add to your answer, because I think I heard Mr. Moritz asking if drainage from vehicles happens, where does it happen? It does not happen on this site, Mr. Moritz. That is done at other locations before the vehicle is brought to this lot.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Just
You all
to
set,
follow,
Andrew?
well, just to follow up on Andrew's question,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Vinny.
if I could ask I'm not sure if you have the data, but has an LSP actually been out there to look at the site? I mean, having 15 people out there doesn't mean it's 15 trained eyes to be watching for the sites and the indications that are needed. Has someone who's a professional gone out there and looked at it and said, yeah, we don't see any indications of a spill? Just a reportable spill is 10 times more than what you would see just walking around, and reportable is actually a bigger number.
Sure.
That would still impact.
The answer is no. I'm not really exactly sure what you're asking entirely, Vincent, but so the LSPs have been on site, but not more recent. And they've achieved cleanup of certain things, incidents that occurred there in the past. And as such, they've reached a closure for the cleanup of the incidents that occurred out there. But those are in the past. And but as for any current conditions, there's no current plan to have an LSP go out there. I mean, the designer Vertex has this kind of skill, and they'll bring that to the table. And they have LSP on staff in the event we make an observable issue associated with any spills of oil hazardous materials. So we do have the ability to check into oil and hazardous materials, and that will be done through the development of the property.
So if I could, Vincent, could I add to Ken's answer a little bit to fill it in even more? There is nothing right now, and there has been nothing observed that triggers the need to have an LSP on site, as Ken says, at this current time. But as you know, we had plenty of DCAM staff and consultants and contractors when we did the demo project, and we're all over this site. And as Ken said, did not make any observation that necessitated hiring an LSP. I do want to be careful how I say this next part, but Ken worked for the Mass DEP for the Reportable Sites program for more than 20 years. And Ken has been out there as much as any DCAM staff. He has not observed any condition of concern that needs to be investigated. Now, he's acting as DCAM's environmental services lead staff on this matter. But I do want to assure, to the extent there are public members on this call and this commission, that if we had an obligation to investigate a concern about a potential release, we would be doing that in accordance with the regs, and those conditions don't exist. So I hope that's helpful.
Yep.
You all said, Vinny?
Yes. Yeah. Like.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Yeah, wrong way. Yes, I have to begin. I haven't even begun the review of the submittal package yet, so we'll get into a little more of the details. But part of it is the soil contamination question. Hopefully, there'll be something in there that has, whether it's Ken or someone certifying that he sees the site as clean or as clean as would be expected for this type of a situation.
Yeah,
Vinny,
I'm
it sounded
not
like
sure.
there might have been a closure report for some type of an incident with DEP at some point. So if that was, closed out and acceptable with them, then clearly there'll be kind of a report and a paper trail on that piece. And then just for our commission and kind of thinking about the construction out here, obviously they're going to need to put, foundations in for the solar canopies. There'll be trenching and things associated with the stormwater, and getting all that in. So obviously during, and as part of the SWIP, if the contractor comes across anything, they'll have to raise their hands, and then there'll have to be some more testing and things like that done, and obviously, deal with it appropriately in regards to the regs. So I feel like, maybe hopefully there's a little bit of documentation on that closure report that we could just have for our records, and then from there it's going to be, really on the project team once they're out there to make sure everything's good while they're digging.
Yep, that sounds good.
Good. Thanks, Justin. Okay, I've got another hand up out here. Rima Zeneldin. You probably butchered that name. Rima, I'm going to bring you in as a panelist. Okay, you should be here.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, Rima. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me in to the room. And I want to thank Vinny also for his help in providing some of the documentation ahead of the meeting. Not that I read it all, but it was helpful. I actually have several concerns about this.
I'm sorry, Rima, I neglected to do this the first time too. Could you identify your address too? That's all we need.
Yes, 1411 Peters Farm Way,
Thank you.
Westboro.
Okay.
Okay, so looking at the footprint of this, I think, and I'm not sure, I was just trying to compare things on the map, but I think that this goes over, or it may not, I'm not sure, over the existing farms. There is what I thought was a trail, but it seems it's what I used to think it's a trail, but I've seen some cars use it, so maybe it is not a walking trail, maybe it's a car trail. So I'm just wondering about the footprint of this, if it goes over that. One of the things that I was surprised to hear here today is about finding this other watershed that was not documented before, which is great, actually, if anything. So to me, thinking of all of this area in relation to the watersheds, I think more of like this is our chance to restore this whole area rather than to convert it to concrete or asphalt or what the parking lot will look like. And so I think this is really a missed opportunity to preserve the wetlands and the existing habitat for the various animals and plants, instead of destroying the habitat and displacing the animals. I saw in the report somewhere that it says that there isn't necessarily a rare species. So I'm not sure. Like I'm guessing that they went to the Massachusetts website to look for the rare species data and maps. But it seems like there will be loss of vegetation, and it's just a lost opportunity to restore the area and maintain it as a natural area. And I know, like, I've heard that what was shared about the drainage of the liquids within the cars, but the reality is these cars don't look great. They're banged up, so probably as rain comes down, it washes down things with it. So I was surprised to see that that with the bids at the bids area, that there will be the requirement to develop a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which seems to indicate that the town does not have standards for that or will not put certain minimum requirements. It's like, oh, it depends on what comes in, and we look at it and evaluate it. So that kind of seems strange to me. I wanted to look at the proposal by itself and see like how it is it in line with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, and but I did not get the chance to look through the whole thing. I see that what was mentioned about the 35 feet around the new watershed, and I was under the impression that there has to be 100 feet of land around the wetlands, but I may be like off about this. So it's really a missed opportunity for the town to restore the wetlands rather than cause this huge encroachment. And I was looking in the proposal for the rationale for it, actually. And I did not find like what was the reasoning behind doing this project. So I'm curious also about that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Ken, do you want to take any of these, or how do you want to divide that up amongst your team?
Ken, you want me to take a crack at answering some of those things?
Yeah, Rich, why don't you? Thank you
Okay.
so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Ken. Again, I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental Consultants, and our role was to help out Vertex and DCAM and guide the project through the process to ensure regulatory compliance with the state Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the local wetlands bylaw. So the larger wetland to the north that Gary was pointing out, excuse me, is a bordering vegetated wetland that's jurisdictional under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and it's jurisdictional under the local bylaw. And any land within 100 feet of that wetland boundary requires pre-construction review and approval by the Conservation Commission. The 100-foot buffer zone is not a no-build zone. It just means you need permission from the Town Conservation Commission to do work within that zone. This commission has a local bylaw, which has a 25-foot no disturbance zone and a 35-foot no structure zone, meaning that no disturbance is allowed within 25 feet of the wetlands, and no structures are allowed within 35 feet of the wetlands. With respect to the isolated wetland that we pointed out, the one that's closer to the proposed development, that wetland is only jurisdictional under the bylaw because it's isolated. The state doesn't protect isolated wetlands. But fortunately, Northborough does have a wetlands bylaw that protects these isolated wetlands. And as we described and showed to you in the photographs and on the plans, this area is highly degraded. So as part of the project, we are restoring and enhancing that isolated wetland, along with the 35-foot buffer zone that the commission protects. So under the proposed condition, it will function much better compared to what's there now. I'd also add that with regard to the 100-foot buffer zone from the bordering wetland, this project is in the outskirts of that 100-foot buffer zone, very far away from the 25 and 30-foot buffer zones that the commission protects. I think it was something like 80 square feet or 100 square feet of the 100-foot buffer zone would be altered as part of the project. So I think DCAM and the applicant are taking advantage of the restoration potential associated with this project. I think Gary has demonstrated that and will demonstrate in more detail, the footprint of the development is in large part within the footprint of the existing usable space out there. And they're actually shifting that area farther from the wetlands, which is going to result in more wetlands protection compared to the existing condition. They're also implementing the pollinator meadow to the left of the development, and that in large part is outside of the buffer zone. So for the purposes of complying with the state and local laws, I really think this project goes above and beyond what's typically required. And with that, I turn it back to the chair.
Great, thank you, Rich. Ken, do you want to say something? You look like you wanted to mention something.
No, that's good. Thank you, Rich, for providing that explanation. I'm hoping that provides an answer to our public.
Good. Okay. Anything else, Rima? Any other questions you have while we have you here? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, well, I don't think the question about relatively where the farm is here was answered. I
Gary,
think
can you go back to the aerial that shows the existing footprints, and maybe we can orient Rima as to show her where the farm is?
Exactly. And we're not
Might be helpful
looking
too,
at
just
any
for
of-
the team. I know we're gonna have to continue this one, but at the next hearing, maybe an overlay onto the aerial with this work, just to, you know, kind of illustrate the limits of existing disturbance compared to now. I think would be
Yeah.
helpful for everyone.
Absolutely. And just as a point of reference, the agricultural fields are here and here. The existing access road is here. None of that area will be disturbed under this project. It's approximately in and again, this is an approximate location, but
Yeah,
it's
for the next
in
hearing,
this
we can-
area that's previously been disturbed with these similar type of uses. There's no impact whatsoever to the agricultural land here and here, or the actual bordering vegetated wetland in this area.
and what about the water pollution prevention plan? I mean, does Northborough have some standards to be met there?
They do, and that will be submitted. This stormwater pollution prevention plan is a document that is used during construction for the contractor, so the one doing the actual digging, the procedures that he needs to have in place to prevent pollution during construction. It's part of a federal permit through the EPA, and that is the reason that we won't, if this project is approved, they won't be able to actually start construction until the commission has received that stormwater pollution prevention plan. But with a publicly bid project, there is no contractor on board right now, not until the project is bid and awarded to a contractor, which is why we request that we're allowed to submit it at that time.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that from the town's end, we do allow that to occur, but as part of a design and a review process, we have all the standards and stipulations included in the bid package so that the contractor is ready and aware that he's going to have to do all the treatment that's required, prepare some temporary sediment basin areas, show the general locations where they would probably be shown or be utilized. Make sure the volumes are appropriate so that they can really do what they're saying they want to do, similar to what was done in the very initial project that we reviewed tonight. We want to see everything kind of in place and ready to go, but not the formal plan would have to be before a pre-construction meeting.
Okay.
So I think what's left is really the rationale behind this project. I mean, it's nice that there is some restoration around the isolated wetland, but like, what's the rationale? Why convert this area to asphalt, basically?
Well, let me try and answer that one, Rima, here. Then I want to move on here pretty quickly, but it's in this use now. It's an unpaved wood dirt area with water being untreated, running into the wetlands. When this is all said and done, that's going to be an improvement in my view, where there's going to be treatment in place, there's directions of the water control in place. It should be better than it is now. My 2 cents. Okay, I have one more hand up here. I had a hand up. Let me see. They disappeared. Okay, Andrew Ramirez. I'm going to bring you back one last time here.
Okay.
And oh, you're already here. Look at that magic. And ask you to limit to 3 minutes if you could. We're all pretty tired.
Okay. I will. And you can see me now. The other question I had, even though I know it is not related to the Wetlands Act, will there be? You could just answer. Will there be lighting installed on this site?
Gary, you can take the question. Yeah.
Yes, site lighting is proposed for this site.
Will that lighting be pointing down, or will it be, I guess my question is, will it be a disturbance to the neighbors if it's, because I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of lighting to light that area.
Yeah, I am not an electrical engineer, so I want to be careful not to go, outside of my area, but industry standard is to have downward facing lighting, and that's pretty much across the board nowadays. So I don't anticipate any issue with it being pointed upward. And I think even more so in this scenario where generally all of the abutters who are on a residential level are all elevation wise, they're much further above the site.
Mhm.
Any downward facing light, I think, would be even less noticeable than it would be when a neighbor was at the same elevation. So I don't anticipate that will be an issue. But again, I'm not an electrical engineer, so I want to be careful how far I take that.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Andrew, before you go, I neglected to, if you could give me your address, please, for the record.
Sure. 1311 Peters Farm Way, Westboro.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we are good. No other hands up. So we're going to continue this. We have some video looking for information to come in, Hill, right? And we heard a couple things today about soil testing before paving and the closure report, amongst others. Any other comments before we're going to continue this till June 10th? Then you good with that?
I am good.
Okay. So we need a motion to continue this to June 10th.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Roll call. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Diane Goldner.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Ken, John, Susan, Rich. It's a long list of folks here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Gary, you and Vinny are working some of the farm items too. We'll talk about that next time. So Vinny has to be happy with the farm stuff. That's very important. Okay, very important. Really. So
we do what we can on every front.
making progress. You're making progress, I think. Very good. Okay, folks. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic night.
You too.
Bye.
Okay. People are dropping off. I think we're good. All right. All right. Continue that one too. That's the end of the agenda I have here. What do we have? A couple of quick ones here. Number 2, Chapin Road, Vinny.
2 Chapin Road. I can do a
Chapin
quick
Road.
screen share just to give people an idea of what's happening.
Chapin Road is 2 Chapin Road is a house across the street from Howie Stone's old house.
Yes. Rice is here and it goes up. I'm sorry about the image. Actually, where am I? So this is on the lower side. The pond is down here. Why? I'm having some troubles with this. Is coming from Dropbox, so it doesn't give me much of an image screen. But this is where the pond is on the side of Rice. Rice Ave is here. The pond, the cow pastures up and back here. And this is the house right on the corner. Old house was dilapidated and is now being repaired. The new owners got started and parked an RV down in this area here, ripped out this building, did some clearing along this edge, and then I was notified because they were only approved to do work interior of the house. So I'm working with the building inspector to try to get this to come into compliance. And I wanted to let everybody know, if you're driving by, that the work is going right up onto the bank. I took a couple of photos. And this is, the bank is here on the left. And this is what was, the RV is now parked right at the top of the, or it was parked at the top of the bank. It's now been moved. They cut a couple of trees down. And this is looking back at where I just took that photo from. That first photo is looking towards this way, and this is looking back in the other way. They pushed some material. They've done a whole bunch of alteration in the no disturb zone. So now I've asked them to do a request for determination, and I just want to let the board, the commission know that that's the occurrence, or that's the status. And if anyone has any other questions, you can see the stream in the distance there in the background. But I'm going to ask them to come in and do a request for determination of applicability.
Are they cooperating, Ben?
Yes, they had no idea about the regulations. They just went in there, they took this porch off, and they did a whole bunch of alteration in this area here. They took down the building, which was dilapidated, and they cleaned that out and moved it outside the buffer. They put in a wattle currently, and they want to put in a fence along that same line because they have kids living in the RV right there. So they're interested in getting this project moving along. So they're willing to do what's needed to make the improvements and to get this to be a livable, permittable building site.
We'll probably that next month, Vinny, you think?
They have already submitted, so they're ready to go.
Great. Okay. Good. Any questions on that? Okay. Forest stewardship update.
Yeah. I've been riding this one for a long time, and I think it's time to cut bait. We've been working with the consultant trying to make things happen, but I think I'm pretty sure she's having health issues. It's not going to allow her to fulfill the contract. So I think I'm going to have to try to get this out to bid again and start the process over again.
Okay.
Yeah, if she's not executed the contract and hasn't gotten back to you, then time to move on.
Okay. If anyone has any other ideas, it'd be great. I talked to Dan earlier. He might be able to find a couple more licensed foresters to do the plan preparation, but we're going to try to get it going again.
I have to go kidnap one.
They're tough, you know. I don't want to be doing that.
Okay. So we'll see how that goes. We hopefully will have our empty seat filled for the June meeting. Hopefully, I have interviews scheduled soon to come in here, so hopefully we'll see how that works.
Good.
Anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
I do have, Greg, just on the June meeting, I have a conflict.
Okay.
That night, a work conflict, so I won't be on that June 10th meeting. And then also just so you know, the August meeting, I'm actually away for that meeting too. So I should be here for July, but June and August,
Okay,
I'll be out.
got it. All right. Anybody else have any conflicts to know about? No? All right, great. Anything else, Vinny, you want to bring up?
No, I don't think so. I'd get fired if I do.
Todd, you said 3 hours are pretty good. That was a pretty good bet.
I said 6.
See, we cut that in half, Todd.
I was trying to get, yeah, well.
Okay, great. Then if nobody else has anything else, we want to have a motion to dismiss.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Diane. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Diane Goldner.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
I vote yes. Super.
All right, thank you all.
Night, everyone.